we're going to take a look at the state of journalism in Eswatini. This after the country's Justice Minister Pholile Dlamini issued a statement saying that the media freedom in the country is a critical component of the Eswatini constitution. But this is the freedom that is being experienced by journalists in the country? Well, last year the editor of The Nation, Bheki Makhubu, told the Mail and Guardian in an interview to call authorities to account in Eswatini is almost an impossible task because of the regime's repressive laws towards dissidents, saying that the country is run by bullies. Makhubu and activist and human rights lawyer Thulani Maseko were sentenced to 2 years in jail after writing and publishing articles in The Nation that was critical of the Swazi judiciary. Reporters have things been changing? Well, last month the Committee to Protect Journalists wrote about how earlier this year the police in Manzini region of Eswatini raided the home of Pholile Dlamini, the editor of the privately owned news website Swaziland News. They arrested him, handcuffed him to a bench and tried to suffocate him by putting a plastic bag over his head, saying that an officer told him to forget about your rights. The police deny this claim. And in another posting, the CPJ reported how in April this year, police officers raided the home of Eugene Dube, the editor and publisher of the privately owned news website Swati Newsweek, and seized his 3 mobile phones, a laptop and work documents. Now, Swati Newsweek reporter who wrote one of the articles that Dube was questioned about was also taken in by police. Dube has since gone into hiding, fearing the authorities are, we'll be speaking to him in a few moments, we're hoping. He reached out to the police spokesperson Pindile Vilakati about some of those incidents that she said she was unable to respond to foreign media without permission from government. And just 2 weeks ago, the National Police Commissioner William Dlamini said that the police would come hard on journalists who are hell-bent on writing negatively about the monarch. Let's take a look at how Eswatini is rated in the World Press Freedom Index. Let's just go back to a couple of images now where the press index shows that Eswatini is rated 141 out of 180 countries, and this puts them among the worst 20% of countries for media freedom in the world. RSF says that any criticism of the regime is liable to be the subject of prosecution and far from being an independent protector of rights and freedoms. The judicial system is often used to undermine journalism. In response to some of these allegations, the Justice Minister, a woman called Pholile Dlamini, issued a statement at the end of last month saying that the government is concerned over the media report alleging that a journalist was forced to flee the country for fear of prosecution for criticizing His Majesty King Mswati III. The minister refers to the CPJ article about Pholile Dlamini, saying that it was not an accurate reflection of the facts. She says that the charges against Mr. Dlamini have nothing to do with government or charges of sedition, but rather that he's charged with housebreaking, assault and defamation of character. She added that Mr. Dlamini's journalistic integrity have long been brought into question. She says that a lot of fake news has gone into the media realm and has been picked up by credible news outlets and reported as facts. All right, okay, we're hoping to be able to get one of those journalists to talk us through what their experiences have been in terms of media journalism, but certainly RSF and CPJ reporting that perhaps things are not as rosy as the Justice Minister would like to paint. But we'll have one of those journalists hopefully after this break. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. Let's try and talk to one of the journalists that was mentioned in the Committee to Protect Journalists reports and get a sense from him just how things have been in terms of reporting from eSwatini. We now have on the line Pholile Dlamini. Pholile, thanks very much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Yes, thank you, Peter. Thank you for having me.
All right, Pholile, you were mentioned quite a bit actually by the Justice Minister in her statement of 29 May, and she says that it's not accurate that you are wanted for anything other than assault, for breaking and entering, and you're facing other charges with 9 other people for defamation of character. Apparently you broke into a house, took photographs of a government official and an acting magistrate in their bedroom, and you put these naked pictures on your website. Is that true?
Yeah, it's false, Peter. What actually happened is that the regime is actually good in fabricating charges. They tried to fabricate these charges in 2014 and later dropped them. So if you can count the years now, it's 2020. So when I became active in my journalism career, they then tried to reinstate those charges. But what I can tell you, Peter, is that they dropped those charges because they didn't have evidence to substantiate them in court. I was in and out of court on those charges. Nothing happened. I was later told that the charges has been dropped. But after I started writing critical articles about the king, those charges were reinstated, and they were reinstated after I fled the country. They went to my home and served the summons to my wife. I wasn't there. And then what they did, they then issued the warrant of arrest. Imagine I didn't receive even the court papers to then go back to court on those charges, but the magistrate issued the warrant of arrest. So those are the tricks by the regime to try and mislead the world that this is nothing to do with my journalism work.
She also says that your integrity has long been in question. She says that you were removed as a member of the eSwatini Editors Forum, a self-regulating media body, by your peers in the media industry for unethical conduct and reporting false information.
Thank you very much, Peter, for giving me this opportunity to respond to that. In fact, I wanted the Justice Minister to be live on air so that I can question him on some of the things he mentioned in the statement. The Editors Forum to which he is referring to was long captured. It is controlled by mostly state journalists from the state-owned media. The chairman of the Editors Forum is paid, his salary is paid for by Dibio Takangwani, a company owned by the king. So they are using that body. Hello?
Yes, carry on.
They are using those captured institutions to try and legitimize injustice among journalists. So I'm not surprised by this statement because it is well documented that the Editors Forum was long captured. And to make matters worse, if journalists are persecuted in Eswatini, they kept quiet. That is which substantiated that this institution was long captured. So I will never take serious any statement that indicates that something that has to do with the Editors Forum in Eswatini.
All right, so, I was hoping to get Eugene Dube on the line as well. He's another journalist that has been through the most in Swaziland. Just how difficult is it to be a journalist in Eswatini?
Hey, it's a tough job, particularly now because the regime is shaking. They try every trick to try and silence journalists. In the case of Eugene was started to be targeted after he tried to be critical about the king and the royal family, including the government, as a freelance journalist of the Swaziland News. Now he's the editor of the Swati Newsweek. So when I was tortured by the police, they told me that my job now was to try and make sure Eugene doesn't write critical articles about the king. And I refused that. So that's how they capture journalists. They first target the editor, which in this case was myself. I was the editor of Eugene Dube. When I was tortured, they then say, we are giving you an assignment to make sure Eugene Dube towed the line. So you can now understand how they captured the editors forum. They captured the editors forum so that the editors forum can then make sure we toe the line. So in the case of Eugene, after they realized that Eugene is not towing the line, they then targeted him directly. That's why he fled the country as well, because he's one of the most critical journalists against the regime.
All right, and Mr. Makubu as well, he spent nearly 2 years in jail for writing pointed articles.
Yes, Peggy Makubu is one of the journalists who was also jailed for writing critical articles about the judiciary. Is more focusing on the judicial system, because we also having challenges with the judiciary in Eswatini. That's why even if we can be persecuted, we can't go to courts and have confidence in the courts, because the courts are also controlled by the king and the royal family, including the government. The justice minister who released the article, the statement to which you are questioning me about, is a wife of an alleged corrupt person in Eswatini and even in Zambia. So I was hoping that maybe if you can one day have both of us live on air, because the integrity of the court are under questionable now because of the justice minister. Is not a credible person, that minister. Yeah.
All right, so what would you like to see starting to happen? I mean, are you suggesting if you're not critical of government, if you're not critical of the king, then you're fine as a journalist? Is that the only problem that they have with journalists? I mean, we heard the police commissioner saying that you will be brought to book if you write negatively about the king. Yes, I'm happy, Peter, that came from the National Commission. The National Commissioner mentioned that any journalist who will be critical about the king will be brought to book. So that shows that there is no independence of journalists in Eswatini. You are expected to be a propagandist. You are expected to be a praise singer of the king and the government. If anything happens, you are expected to turn a blind eye. So that's the challenge. Those are the challenges we are facing as journalists in Eswatini. So these statements that came from the people like the Justice Minister, I am not surprised, because they even went to the extent of hiring PR agencies trying to make sure they mislead the world about the plight of journalists in Eswatini. So if they are ready to spend money just to fabricate statements and hire PR agencies outside the country, it means that they have something to hide. That's why you can never have the minister live on air to respond to questions, because he is being assisted to draft this fabricated statement to try and tarnish the reputation of journalists as means of protecting the corrupt regime.